And welcome to Abstract Essay, where the aspect shape thought find love and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. Well, my special guest is something good and heart finders. Self cultivation course to be your best self for sure. Feel great about yourself and have peace of mind and find fulfillment. One of his advocacy, no other than Mr. Glenn Berger. Welcome, Mr. Glenn on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. It's great to be here this evening. Um, so my story is that when I was about 17 years old, I was lucky enough to get a job working in one of the greatest recording studios in the world, a place called A&R Studios in New York. And at that studio, I had the incredible opportunity to work with some of the most amazing artists of that era in the 1970s: Bob Dylan, Frank Sinatra, Paul Simon, Mick Jagger, and many, many others. And I learned so much from them about what it means to be a great artist and how to really pursue something to greatness. It was also a world of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And after about 20 years in that business, I was completely burnt out. I had pretty much destroyed a relationship with infidelities, and I was taking drugs every day. And I was completely lost. And I went on a journey to try to figure out what my problem was. And along that journey, I went to Ellis Island. And Ellis Island, if for those of your guests who don't know, is a island in New York Harbor where many, many immigrants uh, were processed into the United States. My grandfather was processed through that island in 1906, and a friend recommended that I go out there to try to find an answer to my problem. And on the seawall at Ellis Island are the names of all of the immigrants who've been through the island. And I found my grandfather's name. And in desperation, I said, "Grandpa, what should I do with my life?" And he said, "Go back to school." Now, I was 37 at that point, and I did not have one college credit because I went right into the recording studio when I was 17 years old. And I said, "I can't go back to school. I don't have the time. I don't have the money." And then I heard my grandfather's voice again. And he said, "Why do you think I came to this country at 16 years of age without a nickel in my pocket? I knew I was never going to make it. I came for the promise of you for my grandchildren. So don't tell me you don't have the time or you don't have the money. Figure it out. Make it happen." Well, I couldn't argue with that. And by January of that year, I was back in school. And when I thought about what to study, what I decided was I was going to figure out how I had gotten so lost and how I could find myself again. And if I could figure that out, maybe I could help other people do the same thing. And that began my journey of where I am today, where I'm a psychotherapist and a coach and a creator of an online self cultivation course called Heart Finders, as well as an author, having written a memoir of my days in the music business called Never Say No to a Rock Star. And so that's where I am today, and that's what I'm still pursuing.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Glenn. Thank you.
Happy for doing that.
Yes, thank you for empowering us. So
Yeah.
today, let's talk about something good that our listeners for sure will be empowered. How to get unstuck and
Yeah.
live your best life.
Yes.
So, how do you help someone accurately diagnose why they are stuck? And it's
Yes.
more than a lack of clarity, a fear of failure, or external circumstances, or something else entirely.
Yes. 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 Absolutely, Daniel. And those factors are certainly part of the story. So, what I've discovered is that when people are stuck in their life, One aspect of this are the negative stories that they tell themselves and about the world. And the word that I like to use for this is shame, where shame is the feeling that goes along with the belief that in some way I don't measure up as a human being. And when people are in a shame state, when they walk around with that deep belief, that deep conviction about themselves, that that then generates anxiety, and that anxiety leads to avoidance. So if somebody is certain that they are not going to be able to succeed because of this deep feeling of inadequacy, then they're not going to take the action that might lead them to get the job that they want or the relationship that they want or be creative in the way that they want to do. And when they develop this habit of avoidance, of procrastination, that becomes a habit. That becomes something that gets repeated over and over and over again. And the more that that happens, the deeper that behavior becomes, the deeper that habit becomes. And then they tend to develop a negative view of themselves and the world. They don't believe that they can ever change. They don't believe there's any point in doing anything. So all of these pieces reinforce each other. The negative belief about the world is against me. They have a deep habit of avoidance. That avoidance is driven by that shame. And then what I see in stuck people is that they also have a reluctance to learn anything. What's the point of learning something? I'm stupid anyway. I'm never going to learn it. It won't make a difference. I'm just going to avoid things anyway. And it just reinforces that negative belief about themselves. And finally, stuck people tend to treat themselves poorly. They don't take care of their bodies. They don't take care of their minds and their spirit. And then, of course, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not eating well, if you're not getting good sleep, if you're not working out, you're not going to have great energy. That's going to deepen that feeling of shame. That's going to deepen that habit of avoidance and procrastination. So that tends to be the six elements that lead to somebody being stuck. Now, what is the solution to that? So, for each one of those characteristics, there is a method, there's something that you can actually do to heal or transform those six patterns. So, in terms of the shame piece of it and the negative things that we say to ourselves, we need to start speaking to ourselves in self compassionate ways, in ways where we're empathetic to ourselves. So instead of blaming yourself or criticizing yourself for the things that you haven't done, even though you're trying over and over again and you're still not doing it, you can say, that's okay. Let's try it again. Just in the same way that you wouldn't criticize a child when they're first learning how to walk. If they fall down, you wouldn't say, you klutz, I know you're never going to be able to do it. No, you say, that's okay. Let's give it another shot, right? In terms of that procrastination, there's the attribute of that I call courage, which means doing the things that you're scared to do, right? Courage is not the absence of fear, it's acting in the face of fear. And if you can start out in little ways and promise yourself that on a daily basis, you're going to do a scary thing, then that's a way to turn around that habit, developing what I call strength, which is the ability to do the things that you don't have the habit of doing, or stopping doing things that are your bad habits. So every day, for example, in just a little way to train that strength, when I'm in the shower, I want to turn on the cold water, but I love the feeling of the warm water. And I say, you know what, today I'm not going to do it. I don't want to feel that cold water. And as soon as I have that thought in my head, I say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the thing that I don't want to do. And then I turn on the cold water, and then it's great. And then I feel better about myself. And that lowers that shame aspect of things. And now I'm more willing to do the things that would normally be frightening to me. And then in terms of the negativity, we need to cultivate positive imagination, which means visualization. We know science proves that people who rehearse mentally perform better, whether you're an athlete or a musician or whatever it is. So the daily practice of positive visualization is something that is actually going to make it more likely that you're going to be successful at whatever it is that you're trying to do, which is going to turn around those negative habits, which is going to make you less afraid because you're going to feel less shame. Next, wisdom. Developing the attribute of wisdom is learning something every day. How are you going to get good at anything if you're unwilling to learn how to do it? But if you practice every day and you learn a little bit every day, you are going to get better. You're going to become capable. That's going to lessen your fear. That's going to change those bad habits. That's going to lead you to believe in yourself more. That's going to lower your shame. And finally, self love. Self love is taking care of your body and your mind and your spirit, eating well, sleeping, going to the gym, those kinds of things, simple things that are going to give you more energy so you can learn better, so you can be more positive, so you can change those habits. And you can see how all of these things fit together. And as you do those things, you develop courage and strength and pride and confidence, and you actually accomplish things. And then you can actually be capable of things, and this is the way to get unstuck and to change your life. Does that make any sense to you, Daniel?
Makes sense, Mr. Glenn. And what is the difference between feeling temporarily stalled in life and being truly stuck? When does the pause become a problem?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think the answer is obvious that there are people who may face an obstacle. Let's say you're a creative person and you're working on a film. Uh, these days, people are working with AI to do creative projects, and you can't think of that next thing to do, or you keep trying things, and it's not exactly what you want to do. When I worked with the great artists in the studio, let's say a band like, well, let's say an artist like Paul Simon, who was a real perfectionist. We might spend an entire night working on a guitar part. And then he would come in the next day and throw it out because it wasn't exactly the right thing. And those artists like Paul, whether it's Paul Simon or Steely Dan or any of the greats that I worked with, they never stopped persevering. So even if they felt stuck in the moment and they couldn't figure out the right way to get that best musical part, or they were never satisfied with what they were doing and they couldn't figure out how to make it better, they never stopped persevering. And I would say that for the great artists that I worked with, it wasn't explosions of genius ideas. It was that dogged determination and perseverance that led to the creation of great art. Whereas somebody who's genuinely stuck, they bump into that obstacle and they give up, right? And they just stop and they say, I'll never be able to figure this thing out. And then if somebody's going through life and they see that they're 30 years old and they haven't completed their college degree, or they're working some job in a deli making sandwiches when they've always wanted to be a comedian, and they're not taking the steps, they're not doing those open mics, they're not writing the jokes, they're not posting TikToks, then that's an indication that this is a deeper problem.
A deeper problem indeed. And Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
tell us, people or yes, is the feeling of being stuck primarily an internal psychological state or it's a legitimate signal to our external life is misaligned to our needs?
That's a great question, and I would say yes to both, right? And that we don't know. For example, I'm working with somebody right now who is in a relationship with somebody who is a chronic liar, right? And there's many wonderful qualities that she has, but this is a problem that comes up in the relationship over and over again. Now, the guy brings his own history, his own habits, his own family background to the relationship, and he approaches the situation in ways that doesn't get him what he wants. I like to say in couples therapy, very often people try to get their needs met in the worst way possible. It doesn't work, and they do it over and over again. So he's feeling a lot of distress right now. Maybe in one way, he's not listening to his emotions, which are telling him that this relationship isn't really right for him, right? On the other hand, he's got to look at his own behavior that's perpetuating this pattern between the two of them. He's very judgmental. That scares his girlfriend. She avoids wanting to tell him the truth because she's afraid of of his judgments. And so they each play a role. So I think that we're always needing to look at that question of, is this am I having a problem in my life because of some way that I'm seeing or behaving in the world, or is there really an objective truth that I need to pay attention to that maybe I'm not really willing to acknowledge or feel or do something about, if that makes any sense.
Yes, definitely, Mr. Glenn. And how does someone identify for one limiting belief or story they are telling themselves that is acting as a primary anchor holding them in place?
Could you ask that one more time because you got a little glitchy? I'm sorry.
Yes, no worries. So, how does someone identify the one limiting belief or story they are telling themselves that is acting as the primary anchor holding them in place?
Right, right. That's a great question. So, if somebody comes to me with a situation in their life, something that they're avoiding, let's take that guy who wants to be a comedian, um, and he promises himself he's going to make that TikTok, and he's got a little routine that he wants to do, but then he doesn't do it, right? So, what I invite him to do is to first go into what's the feeling that you have as you imagine doing that. And then he taps into that fear or anxiety. And then I say to him, so what is the thing that you believe about yourself? What's the negative belief that you have about yourself that generates that anxiety, that makes you feel afraid? And if he has a hard time figuring it out, I have a list of potential negative beliefs about yourself. I'm unlovable. I'm stupid. I'm ugly. I'm fat. Those are the individual versions, right? And once somebody can actually name that core negative belief about themselves, then we have that basic thing. But what is underneath that individual version of it is that feeling of shame. And I think that once people can identify that there's shame beneath their fear, or shame beneath their anger, shame beneath their avoidance, and that it may be attached to one of those individual sentences, now they know what it is that they need to work on to free themselves.
Mr. Glenn, how do you build and maintain momentum after the initial breakthrough so the person does not just get unstuck momentarily and then slip back?
Daniel, I have to admit that is one of the most challenging and difficult problems for human beings. It's difficult for people to start, and it's difficult for them to continue. And the power
Yes.
of that negative internal voice is formidable. This is a dynamic process, right? So somebody can counter that negative voice, and instead of saying, you're a fraud, you're an imposter, you're a loser, you're never going to be able to do it. And then they come up with the other voice that says, you know what? Look at how much you've actually accomplished in your life. Look at your successes. Look at what you're capable of. Look at how other people feel about you, right? The other voice is going to come right back in, because that voice is like a living being. It's an uncanny, it's a weird thing, but it's like a living being, and no living being wants to die. So it will do whatever it needs to do to live, and it'll come right back in, and come back with that negative counter voice. This is something we need to be vigilant about at all times, and it's a very challenging habit to get over. So what I encourage people to do, and the purpose, or one of the purposes of my online self cultivation course, is to give people something that they can do and need to do every single day. So even on the smallest level, what I encourage my clients to do is when they wake up first thing in the morning is to say, you are amazing because. They claim that if you talk to yourself in the second person, it actually has a deeper impact on your brain. So something that you did the previous day, it doesn't have to be a big deal, right? You're amazing, Daniel, because yesterday you did one of these podcasts. Fantastic. Second thing is, I'm grateful for, right? And find something in your life that you're grateful for. Now, people have trouble doing this. The old artist Patti Smith would say, I'm grateful that I have a toothbrush. It could be anything. So I can say tomorrow that I'm grateful for having had the opportunity to do this with you, Daniel. And then the third part is that visualization exercise, right? Which is, I see myself succeeding. I see myself making that TikTok to do that comedy routine for that guy, or whatever that individual vision is. And the more and the clearer you can visualize this and see yourself actually doing it, the more likely it is to happen. So these are the daily habits to keep you going, even though that other voice is going to come back in and try to undermine you. That's why some people call it the undermining gremlin. But I think even a daily exercise like that, a daily meditation, is going to be the most effective way of keeping the momentum going.
The effective way, Mr. Glenn, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in fifth season, Abstract Poetry in second season, and my Book 101 review in fifth season too, Comedy 101 in third season, Movie 101 review sixth season, Geography, Love Letters, Movie 101 review, Music 101, are in fourth season, Science 101, Sex 101, second season of my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101. And coming this December, Entrepreneur 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Glenn, ultimately, is your best life a final destination to reach, or is it a quality of presence and alignment you carry with you?
Yeah, I don't think that the point is the final or any final destination. I think the answer is in the process itself. We always have the capacity to grow, that it is inherent in us as living beings, that we have infinite potential. There is the thing that you are meant to be as a person, and that is a process of continuous growth. I believe that uh, um, when you've liberated your human spirit, and you can self-actualize on a continuous basis, that is what's going to bring you the deepest experience of fulfillment.
Fulfillment indeed. And Mr. Glenn, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes. Yeah, you can have a free trial of my online self cultivation course if you go to www.school, that's SKOOL.com/heartfinders, as it sounds, HEARTFINDERS, /about. We'd love to see you there. Love to see you participating. It's got three components: all the knowledge and wisdom you need, uh, over 60 exercises that you can do to unleash all of your inherent powers, and community support. Those are the three things that we need in order to self-realize and become our best selves. I'd love to see you there.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Glenn and Berger. Him, Glenn.
Daniel, thank you so much for having me.
Monica.